They call this a bill. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is a bluff, wrapped in paper, fear, and tiny print. And if you're older, living on fixed income, that bluff gets expensive fast. Here's the part that should make you sit up. Some seniors keep paying charges they may not legally owe, not because they're careless, but because the system learned one ugly trick. Send the notice. Use official language. Add urgency. Most people pay first, ask later. And that, my friends, is extraction with a postage stamp. Look, I'm not talking about dodging real obligations. I'm talking about charges that get paid because the rules are scattered, conditional, and deliberately unreadable. Different office, different form, different deadline, different trap. And the worst part? Nobody translates the rules into human language. They just mail another envelope and hope your fear does the math. Not financial advice. Just 2 screens, a Red Bull, and a guy who actually read the fine print. And yes, some of these protections depend on state, income, age, disability, veteran status, or enrollment. So do not kill Autopay and vanish into the night. Pause, verify, then move. Because the house always wins when you pay blind. Let's start with the bill that scares people the fastest. Medical bills. Yeah, the white envelope of doom. Meet Gloria, 72, Medicare, fixed income, opens a statement for several $100s. Her heart drops, so she pays it. Except sometimes, that charge should have been reduced, reprocessed, appealed, or never billed that way at all. And this is where the system gets slick. A lot of seniors see a balance and assume balance means final. No, balance means someone printed a number. Those are not the same thing. Sometimes the provider billed before insurance finished processing. Sometimes there is duplicate billing. Sometimes the code was wrong. Sometimes the service should have been covered differently. And sometimes the bill includes charges that belong in dispute, not on your debit card. Here's the street translation. What they say is, patient responsibility. What that can mean is, we sent you the mess before we cleaned it up. And older adults are especially vulnerable here. Because the language is dense, the timing is confusing, and medical fear makes people comply. If a letter mentions collections, most people panic. That panic is profitable. Now, relief. Before paying a medical bill, seniors should ask a basic chain of questions. Was this already sent to Medicare? Was secondary coverage billed? Is this an explanation of benefits or an actual bill? Was there financial assistance, charity care, or a billing error review? And if that sounds annoying, good. Annoying is cheaper than paying a wrong charge. Actually, no. Let me say that better. 5 minutes of friction can save months of regret. Also, some balance billing protections exist for certain services and settings. That does not mean every bill disappears. It means the scary number on page 1 may not be the real number. So the move is simple. Do not pay the first frightening version. Verify the version after processing, corrections, and assistance screening. That one change alone can stop a lot of money from leaking. But the medical trap gets uglier. Because once a senior overpays, getting that money back becomes its own side quest. Forms. Hold music. We mailed the refund. Ancient nonsense. So the first protection is not heroic. It is boring. It is beautiful. It is this. Never confuse a mailed demand with a settled amount owed. And that leads to the next trap. Property taxes. Yeah, I know. People hear tax and assume the government is a locked vault. But many states and local programs have senior exemptions, homestead reductions, assessment freezes, deferrals, or circuit breaker-style relief. Translation? Some older homeowners keep paying the full hit, when the rules may allow a lower one. Meet Robert, 76. House paid down, income down, tax bill up. He thinks, well, that's just the cost. But nobody told him that age, income, disability, or veteran status might change the number. And here's why this trap works. Property tax relief is often not automatic. That is the scammy part. You can qualify and still get charged the unreduced amount because the benefit sits behind an application. So the system gets to say, we offer relief, while collecting full price from people who never got plain English instructions. Classic. And before somebody gets cute, no, this is not never pay property taxes. Relax. This is check whether the bill should be smaller, frozen, postponed, or capped before you keep bleeding, because the consequences here are brutal. For someone on retirement income, a tax jump is not just annoying. It competes with groceries, medication, heat. One increase can blow up a whole monthly budget. Relief? Ask 3 questions. Is there a senior homestead exemption? Is there a tax freeze, deferral, or assessment cap? Did income, disability, or veteran status open a separate program? And listen, one small word matters here. Deferral does not always mean forgiven. Sometimes it means postponed. That still matters, because cash flow keeps people in their homes. A future claim is one problem. Losing the house this winter is another. And many seniors mix those up. They hear "not fully erased" and keep paying a bill that could have been reduced today. That is not wisdom. That is fear wearing a cardigan. Now here's the emotional whiplash. Even when relief exists, offices often bury it in forms that feel designed by enemies. Long packet, strange deadlines, missing document list, zero translation. So families give up, and the bill stays fat. Don't let them play you. Listen to what they're actually saying. If relief depends on paperwork, then the real bill is confusion. The next trap is smaller on paper, but nastier in real life. Utilities, electric, gas, water. Sometimes even phone-related service protections. This is where seniors get clipped by deposits, late fees, reconnection charges, and shut-off pressure. And again, not everywhere. But in many places, older adults, disabled customers, low-income households, or medically vulnerable residents may have access to discounts, arrearage plans, winter protections, or shut-off limits. Meaning this, the bill is not always just the bill. Sometimes it includes penalties or terms that should have been softened, delayed, or recalculated. Meet Denise, 69, lives alone. Summer heat spikes her electric use. The bill jumps. She falls behind once. Then comes the ugly combo. Late fee, threat notice, reconnect fee warning, deposit demand. That stack is how a rough month becomes a spiral. And utility companies know fear converts fast. Nobody wants the lights cut. Nobody wants the heat off. So people pay whatever version arrives, even when protections may exist. Here's the trick. A lot of utility relief is hidden behind words that sound technical and harmless. Budget billing, hardship review, medical baseline, senior discount, winter moratorium, street translation. We have a softer rule, but only if you know the password. And no, not every program wipes the balance. Sometimes it lowers the monthly pressure. Sometimes it blocks a shutoff window. Sometimes it removes extra charges. Sometimes it stretches repayment into something survivable. That matters, because panic payments are how seniors empty savings for the wrong emergency. Look, if a bill says due immediately, the nervous system hears one thing: pay now or suffer. But the legal reality can be slower, more conditional, and more negotiable, especially for older adults with medical equipment, low income, or seasonal protection rights. So the move is not to ignore utilities. The move is to stop treating every threat letter like final law. Ask what protections apply before paying the most punishing version. And yeah, this is the part nobody talks about. A lot of people would rather skip medication than call the utility office. That silence costs real money. Which brings us to the bill that feels personal. Old debt collectors, credit cards, old medical debt, personal loans, zombie balances with a fresh haircut. This one is evil. Because the collector does not need you informed. They need you ashamed, rushed, and isolated. Meet Walter, 74. His only steady income is Social Security. He gets calls about an old card balance. The voice sounds official, maybe even polite. And then comes the pressure. We can settle today. We need good faith payment. Just give us something. Bro, listen carefully. Protected income is not the same as erased debt. That distinction matters. For many consumer debts, Social Security benefits have strong protections from ordinary creditors, meaning collectors may still ask. But asking is not the same as being able to take, and seniors lose money here because the script sounds inevitable. It isn't always inevitable. Sometimes the collector wants voluntary payments from income that is largely protected. Sometimes the debt is ancient. Sometimes the balance is inflated with fees. Sometimes the person on the phone is counting on confusion. And once you start paying, you may strengthen a claim, restart pressure, or drain money you needed for actual survival. Again, that depends on the debt, the state, and the legal posture. So don't oversimplify this. But also, don't surrender just because a stranger used a serious tone. Here is the key. If your only income is protected benefits, the first move is not payment. The first move is verification. Who owns the debt? How old is it? What income is protected? Has there been a judgment? Are they asking, or can they legally seize? Those are very different worlds, and this is where families mess up. They hear, you still technically owe it and assume paying is the only moral option. No. Sometimes the system is trying to convert moral pressure into cash it legally struggles to reach. That is the move. That is the trick. That is why older people get drained. Because they were raised to answer the phone, trust the letterhead, and pay what they owe. Collectors know that. So if the income is protected, the question changes. Not, can I scrape together a payment? It becomes, what can they actually do, and what am I accidentally volunteering? Huge difference. Now we hit the nastiest bill of all. The one soaked in grief, the dead spouse bill, or the dead parent bill, or the bill from a relative's last medical mess that lands on the wrong person. This one makes my blood boil. Because families are vulnerable, exhausted, and emotionally cooked. And that is when the paper arrives. Maybe it's a credit card. Maybe it's medical debt. Maybe it's a loan. Maybe it's a collection notice written like the recipient is automatically responsible. And sometimes they are not. Not automatically. That does not mean never liable. Calm down. Joint account holders, co-signers, certain spouses, community property rules, estate rules, and some state-specific doctrines can matter. But related is not the same as legally responsible. And collection pressure loves to blur that line. Meet Linda, 71. Her husband dies. Bills are everywhere. She gets a call about his old account. The representative keeps saying, "We just need to resolve this." Notice the language, not, "You are legally liable. Let's resolve it." Translation? They want a living, frightened person to do what the estate process, contract, or law may not require. That is a brutal hustle. Because grief kills skepticism. People pay just to make the call stop. They pay to feel decent. They pay because arguing after a funeral feels disgusting, and the system knows that. So here's the rule. A survivor should not assume personal responsibility for a dead relative's bill just because the notice showed up. Verify who actually owes. The estate? A joint signer? A spouse under state law? Or nobody, beyond whatever assets the estate holds. That distinction can save thousands. Actually, more than thousands. It can save the surviving person from getting pushed into the same hole. The biggest trap is not one bill, it's automatic obedience. That is the engine behind all five. Medical statement arrives, you obey. Tax notice rises, you obey. Utility warning hits, you obey. Collector calls, you obey. Bereavement letter lands, you obey. That reflex was trained into people, especially older people. Respect authority, don't make trouble, pay the bill. And this, right here, is the secret they never explain plainly. The biggest trap is not one bill, it's automatic obedience. That is the engine behind all five. Medical statement arrives, you obey. Tax notice rises, you obey. Utility warning hits, you obey. Collector calls, you obey. Bereavement letter lands, you obey. That reflex was trained into people, especially older people. Respect authority, don't make trouble, pay the bill. But the modern billing machine abuses that reflex. So the key is not rebellion for its own sake. It is a filter. A very boring, very powerful filter. Before any senior pays a stressful bill, run 4 questions. Is this amount final? Does age, income, disability, veteran status, or enrollment change the rule? Is the income source protected? And am I the person legally responsible, or just the easiest person to scare? That's the cheat code. Not sexy, not viral, not magical, just enough clarity to stop getting extracted. And if you're watching this for a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, or neighbor, good, because half the game is being the translator. Older adults are not foolish. They are navigating a maze built by institutions that profit from confusion. That is different. So tonight, don't start with panic. Start with the stack. Medical bills, property tax notices, utility letters, collection demands, estate-related claims. Circle anything that looks urgent. Then slow it down. 1 page at a time, 1 call at a time, 1 verification at a time. Because fear wants speed. The truth usually wants paperwork. And yes, paperwork is the final boss. I know, I hate it too. But ugly forms beat elegant exploitation every single time. This is the move they made on your parents too. And if nobody translates the rules, the money keeps leaving. So don't let them play you. Listen to what they're actually saying. Sometimes a bill is a bill. And sometimes it is just a test to see whether you know the rules.